Hey, I'm Rachel,
And I'm Amanda, and this is Beyond a Ballot.
powered by DoorDash.
Today on Beyond a Ballot, we're joined by Ana Pollievre, a woman whose story is as Canadian as it is global. Born in Venezuela and raised here in Canada, Ana has built her own career while navigating life in the public eye alongside her husband, Pierre Pollievre, leader of the opposition. She's a communicator, a mother, and an advocate. And while you may know her last name, you may not know her voice. Today, we change that. Ana joins us to share her perspective on family, resilience, and what it means to live a life that bridges both politics and personal conviction. Ana, we're so delighted to have you today. Thank you for making time for us. And I think we'll start there. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here with two strong-minded women that are so actively involved in politics. I think my story, it happened by accident, to be honest. But when I look back, it all makes sense. So I was raised in Montreal. My family migrated here from Venezuela when I was 8 years old. We lived in Montreal until I was 19. That's when I decided to leave Montreal to come to Ottawa. I studied at University of Ottawa in French. I did not speak English back then. And the reason why is because I wanted to skip Cégep. And here I could go straight to university and study communications. And my plan was always to go back to Montreal and work somewhere in public relations or something like that. But then there was this one summer that I started applying for jobs. And then eventually, months later, I got a call from the Senate of Canada. And it was just a 1 month contract for an independent senator. That was actually a former Liberal member of Parliament, but he was appointed to the Senate by Brian Mulroney.
Oh,
So
Okay.
it was very interesting. And he was from Montreal. He spoke French, so it was easy breezy for me. I started working there. And the more that I was in that political journey, the more it became clear to me that that was kind of a calling. And then when I traced back and looked back at my family back home, both in Venezuela and in Dominican Republic, because my mother's from Dominican Republic, they were all very politically involved. So politics was always part of something that we talked at the table. I know they say that you shouldn't talk
we
politics and
love it.
religion at the table. But for our household, we were always talking about politics from a young age. So it was an accident for me to get involved into politics, but I think it's a natural thing.
Yeah, I think that's something that people don't realize is that you have such a political background yourself. And
Yes.
we're going to ask you a bit about your story in meeting Pierre and how that came to be, because there's a political angle to that also. But what do you think people don't know about you? We hear so much about Pierre and his work. What is your life like? Who are you?
Well, I am a tough cookie.
Yeah.
Early on, when I met my husband, I just jokingly said, "You got to learn how to duck dishes because you're dating a Latina now. So good luck." It was an early warning. I'm very strong-minded. I'm an independent thinker. Actually, there's these 3 points that are super important to me for all women to have. It's to be emotionally, financially, and intellectually independent, no matter what. I believe those are the 3 pillars and the foundation for women to have. And from there, you build yourself, and I think that you can give more to the world, more to your marriage, more to your relationships. So I'm a very strong-minded person, very independent. I have been financially independent since the age of 17. So maybe I think that's one thing that I would say people don't know about me. It's my life has been built on a lot of challenges and resilience. And so I wouldn't say I'm self-made because I don't think it's a nice term. I think through life you have people that you meet that propel you and help you. But I'm definitely very independent, and I had to work for everything that I have. My mother was on welfare. My father was working minimum wage jobs. My parents divorced. So I really, from the age of 17, I moved out. So I had to pay rent, I had to pay food. I put myself through university. I took a student loan that I just recently paid off.
Congratulations.
I wanted to do it by myself. So I think that that's maybe one thing that people don't know because they just see me as a political
Mm.
spouse
Yeah.
and not an individual identity.
You are also a mom. You're raising 2 young kids well in the national spotlight. How would you say, and I use this word cautiously because I think we're all challenged to find the quote unquote balance in our lives, but how do you balance political life and family life while having this big national spotlight on you?
I like that you use the word balance very carefully. I was actually listening to a podcast from Georgie Holt, who is the CEO of Flight Story, that is a media company started by Stephen Bartlett. And she was talking about how much she dislikes the whole
Totally.
No kidding.
term. I'm still in it with her. So thank you for that. I don't think, and I think that that's the thing. It's not balance. It's how do you integrate everything, right? It's how do you make it all work together? Because for me, what we're doing, this journey is very purposeful. It doesn't feel like work. Again, I don't like the word work-life balance because it assumes that the word work is dirty, and it's not a dirty word. For us, work is not work; it's a purpose. And so it's just a matter of integrating everything. I have to say, I am blessed because it does take a village. I have my family that's very present. My dad's sister lives nearby, Aunt Maria. They literally come every weekend just to be with us. It doesn't matter whether
Wow.
I'm traveling or not. So they're part of our family unit as a core. So whenever I travel, the transition is so easy for the kids to just stay with Pablo and Maria because it's what they do every weekend. It's not odd. So we've just integrated all of the elements of our life so seamlessly that that's how we do it. So there's no balancing, there's no real choosing. It's just all part of our day to day and who we are and our purpose as a family. And my son is 4 years old and he knows that he's living in a house that belongs to the government. And he knows that we like the color blue, maybe not the red. Sorry, Amanda. But he's into Spider-Man, so he keeps telling me that he likes both blue and red. So, so I
It's a
think
fair
that's how we do it.
observation for a 4-year-old.
Spider-Man.
So we just integrate it all together, and I'm joking about the blue and the red. My poor
I
little boy
know.
has no idea what daddy does.
He doesn't? I'm curious about that actually. How do you describe, because it's such a, I think people are genuinely, and for sure our listeners are really curious about this idea of like how a family operates in this political life, especially when you're the leader's family, because, there's a constant having to be on the road. There's a constant having to be in the media spotlight. And so with young children, especially, how do you describe what dad does?
I'm going to step back just a quick second to also put into context why we're doing it right now that they're so young.
Okay, yeah.
So when we first talked about peer running for leader, of course, the question, the first time we thought about it, it was just Valentina. Cruz wasn't here yet. And around that time is also when we were going through the diagnosis for my daughter with autism. And I was a first-time mom, so everything was very difficult. So we backed down. The second time Cruz was here, he was 6 months old, and we talked about it. And actually, I thought it was a great timing. It was going to be more difficult on me, especially that Cruz was 6 months old and I had to breastfeed him. But I thought it was a good timing because they don't know anything else.
Right.
And so they're going to sort of be born into it and they can't read social media. I think that that's the most difficult part of this journey is what others say. And if you're not ready for it. And I think that for teenagers, it's probably a lot more difficult. And so I have a lot of empathy and compassion for all of the previous leaders, Justin Trudeau or Natul, the Shears, everyone. I have a lot of empathy and compassion because I know that it can be very difficult. So that it's important to mention. And how do I describe to my children what daddy does? One thing I'm taking from my mom is that my mother always felt a need to explain everything. There was no question that was meant for adults only. So you try to explain everything, you simplify it, you kind of dumb it down as much as you can. So I just tell him, that daddy is traveling around the country because he likes to listen to people to know what they think is best for our country. And daddy's fighting for the things that he believes are best for our country. And he wants to be able to do that for all of us. And so we have to share daddy. So I just really simplify it.
Mm.
Then yes, I do tell him, like, because he's watching television and I'm like, we are the team blue, they're the team red. I try to really simplify it. I concentrate on what daddy does. I don't talk about what the red does or what the orange does, because I just think later on it's up to him to read and to understand and to make his own mind. Of course, I hope he's going to be a blue team, but at the end of the day, I think I think that children and everybody have to go through their phases, right? And to do their own research as well. It goes back to intellectually independent.
It's funny you said that because when we were in the election, one of my daughters in particular, who's 8 years old, was so interested in the colors of the signs. And we actually made a little reel about it on Instagram because it was the colors of the signs that were like an introduction for her or an invitation to her to have this conversation about what do they mean? Why do they have a different color? And I thought it was sort of the simplest way for us to start navigating these conversations in a way that was like age appropriate, that I could bring her in because it's all around her. You see it everywhere. So it's really funny that you should mention that as well. And I think it's probably the kind of conversation that a lot of moms and dads are having with their little ones, especially during election time when we're surrounded by it.
Yeah, and it gets complicated if ever you're traveling to the States.
Totally.
Colors.
My kids are about the same age as yours, so I'm amazed that they understand because my kids just keep asking me how I get into the TV when they see me on television. So we're not there yet with the colors, but I want to ask you about, there's so many decisions to make when you're in the spotlight and you have young children. And we've seen such a variety looking at leaders around the world and their decisions, whether or not to have their kids involved. What do you hope for your children is the lesson out of this period of time? I mean, even when Pierre becomes the prime minister and is there for however long, eventually there will be a shift in their life. And what do you hope the lesson is in this time period for them?
Family first. Our family unit comes first. I think that it's easy for people to look from the outside and wonder how come the kids were there during the campaign trail. But for me, it's really important that they're part of everything. It's really important that when they're adults and they look back, that they see that they were part of it, that our family was united, that we're a unit, that, tomorrow Valentina, Cruz are going to have their dreams, goals, purpose, and I'm going to be there. I'm going to show up. I'll be there, an active participant, joining in to help them in any way I can. And I want that to be what we do as a family. That's important. I have my own dreams and aspirations and goals, and my husband is supportive of those. So I think that that's a message that's important. And of course, I want my children to know that, if mommy and daddy weren't always there, that there was a reason why. It's you have to make decisions in life, and they're going to have to make decisions too in life, and we're all trying to do our best. And I know that we talk about that a little bit, Amanda and I, for the interview that we did, and that sometimes you take a pause and you wonder, you're a very ambitious woman, and you want to make sure that your children know that you're setting an example. Maybe you're not always present, but you are present by setting an example, because that is a lesson you're passing on to your children, to live with a purpose and to build something that you believe in.
You made the decision to have Cruz at least sometimes on the campaign trail.
He
was a very cute member of the camp. We talked about him a few times on this program. He made some headlines. How did you make that decision? How did you make the decision? And it must be a tough one. And I'm sure it comes with some applause and some criticism, because that's the world that we live in. So how did you navigate that, the decision to have him on the trail at some points, and how you dealt with public's response to you being on the trail together?
It goes back to what I was saying, family first, family unit. It was a no-brainer for me that
Yep.
I'm not going to go 37 days without my kids,
Right.
and I'm not going to not be by my husband's side through one of the most incredible and important journeys that we could ever be on. So it was about keeping the family together. So it was a no-brainer. I couldn't care less, to be honest, what other people would say or think.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I'm doing my best as a mom, and all the security was in place for my children to
Mm.
feel safe. Also, we listen to our children. Cruz, it's easy. He's verbal. He can tell me, I don't feel like going,
Yeah.
mommy. There's times he was on the road and he just told me, I want to stay at the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Easy breezy. Sure, honey, whatever you want. For Valentina, she's nonverbal. So it was more challenging. We
Mm-hmm.
had to read the cues. And so if she put her hands on her ears, we know she's overwhelmed. It's too much sensory overload. So we were very mindful and respectful of the comfort of our children in any situation,
Mm-hmm.
and the security was in place for them. But it's an absolutely no brainer. And I'm totally unapologetic about keeping my family together at all
Yeah.
times.
I want to shift from children to partnership because this is something that I think a lot of moms that are business owners that have young children struggle with in general is even
Mm.
seeing your partner or going
Yep.
on a date with them once every, I don't know, year. Um, exactly. We're all like, yep, absolutely. Talk to us about your partnership with Pierre. Maybe start with the story of how you guys met and the context around that for how you have been able to navigate a husband wife relationship with so much spotlight on you guys.
We met at work. I was working in the Senate. He was, of course, a member of Parliament,
Mm-hmm.
House of Commons. I was walking on Spark Street. He looked at me. I could tell. I think women, we know when men are looking at us, right? Um, and he actually followed me. I was going to the dry cleaner and he followed me. So when I turned around, he was right there, said hello to me. Thought it was odd. I said hello back to him. I kept walking. Well, because I just saw him on Spark Street. I'm like, what are you doing now at the dry cleaner? Right? So that was interesting. So I knew there was something there, and then we bumped into each other a few times in Parliament buildings until finally we were in the same elevator, and then he actually started speaking to me, and then asked for my contact, which I originally said no to. Wasn't sure. Then I actually checked in with my boss at the time, Senator Diane Belmar, because I wanted her opinion, not only as another woman with
Mm,
experience in life, but also as my boss, a career woman, an intelligent woman with a PhD. I wanted to have her opinion, because I care about my career. I care about my reputation, what people are going to think and say. This Senate staffer may be going on a date
mm,
with a member of parliament. So that
Mm.
mattered to me. I checked in with her. I got the green light, obviously. History knows now. So I went for coffee with him on the Friday, and then he turned out into a
oh my
4-hour
gosh.
coffee. And
Wow.
then he was going to Calgary the next day, or no, 2 days later, the Sunday. And so he asked me on a date before he was gone to Calgary because he was going to be gone for 2 weeks or something like that. So he's like, I don't want to go a week without seeing you, or
Mm.
2 weeks. I can't recall. So we went for another date near the airport. When he left, he called me back to tell me he had
Oh
missed
my
his
gosh.
flight. He blamed it on me. He blamed it on me because he tried to kiss me,
No.
and I was like, no. And then, I said, well, what are you up to now? And he's like, well, nothing. You made me miss my flight. I
Oh
have
my
no
god.
plans. So then we went for another date. So that would have been our third date in 2 days. So the first one is Friday. Now we're in Sunday. We're on a second date on Sunday, third date total. And when I got there, then he was there waiting for me in front of the restaurant.
Oh
We
my god.
kissed. I felt it that time, and then that was it. He basically we started that day, and then we've been together and inseparable ever since. I think that I don't like saying that people don't really know my husband, because I think it's
Mm.
silly. We don't really know people in general. Everybody just makes
Mm,
assumptions about people all the time, but he's a very warm person. I'm Latina. I'm very affectionate, very touchy. And that was the one thing that I noticed about him. Like, he was rubbing my back, he would hold my hand. He's a very warm person. we connected right away. We connected, of course, our value system, our beliefs, our conversations. And he asked to meet my dad right away. Within 2 weeks, he said, "I love you," and he said, "Can I meet your father, please?" So all of that to me was all, very good signs. What is it like to be the wife of someone on the spotlight? Um, to me, it's hard to answer because I think sometimes that you're handled the cards that you should be handled in life, because everything feels kind of natural. I don't want to say the word easy because it's not easy always, but it feels natural in terms of who I am as a person. I've never been one to truly pay attention to what others say. I'm very strong-minded, so there's just no impact on what others say or think about my husband, because what matters is what I think. I'm very
Do you
independent like
see each
that.
other? Do you get to go on
So,
date nights?
well, we do, but it goes back to the whole independent thing. I'm a very independent woman. I don't think any woman can date Pierre Polyev. You got to be independent because he's gone most of the time. So I am very independent. I'm working my own projects. Like I go during the day. I don't even text him. He's the one who'd be texting me like 3 to 4 times. "I love you. I miss you," and he's like question mark because I haven't
Oh,
replied. Um, and I'm just zoned in. My brain is zoned in. I'm reading something or I'm watching something. So we're both very independent, but very affectionate when we're together. And I think, again, I'm not a big fan of the word balance, but I guess if I can use it in this context, it strikes that perfect balance. When we're together, it's very meaningful. And when we can't be together, we're both busy working on our own projects, and it feels very natural. And again, I have family support. So when he's not around, it's not like I feel like a
right.
single mom, because I feel like some women could feel like a single mom if the husband is often gone, or their spouse. I don't feel like one because I have so much support here at home, and I am blessed, and I know that, and I'm grateful.
And now, a word from our title sponsor, DoorDash. Season 3 of Beyond a Ballot is powered by DoorDash. Just like we go beyond politics, DoorDash goes beyond delivery, investing in people, stories, and communities across Canada. For many entrepreneurs, scaling their operations opens doors for growth they never thought possible. In fact, 72% of businesses say DoorDash helps minimize the time, cost, and logistical burden of in house delivery. Businesses like Nare Korean Kitchen, where a grant from DoorDash helped daughter and mother duo Rose and Young Jin Koo make upgrades to their operations. Beyond improving their website and kitchen equipment, the support from DoorDash also allowed them to invest in their staff, the team they credit as the heart of their restaurant success. From delivering homemade kimchi to their local church to sourcing fresh ingredients from local suppliers, Nare Korean Kitchen is proof that impact is built plate by plate, relationship by relationship. Their story reminds us that behind every business is a ripple effect, supporting staff, customers, and strengthening community ties.
You talk a lot about independence and your own projects, and we've talked about this previously. And I want you to tell us more about that, but also it's almost this dual role that you have to play, right? Because there's the role that you're playing as the spouse and partner of a political figure. And that role included being on the campaign trail and doing the things that you did, meeting with Canadians across the country, but you also have your own projects. So tell us about those projects, but also tell us when you look ahead and you see, like, the dream scenario is that he becomes the prime minister. What happens to Ana and her projects? Do you see a future for those projects going forward? Do you see them being able to scale on a national level because you could potentially have that platform? I'm curious on your vision for the future as it relates to his goals as well.
It's a very interesting question, and it's one that I've been very thoughtful about it, and I've done my research. So first of all, you use the word role, and that's an interesting one because, as we know, the spouse of a prime minister does not have a role. She does not have an official role, and so it begins with that, and that is the first thing, that was important for me to really understand it's I can do as much as I want, I can do as little as I want, should my husband become the Prime Minister of Canada, because there is no role. I understand that there are expectations,
Yeah.
and I do want to meet gracefully in a poised manner a lot of these expectations, because I do support my husband. I do love our country. I do believe in what we're doing. So I will meet many of these expectations. But I also intend to continue being authentically who I am. I actually think that it would be a disservice for me to drop all of myself, all of who I am, all of my dreams and all of my goals. I think it would be a disservice for my daughter, for other women out there that are watching that. So I have been very careful in asking those questions. Actually, one of the first things I did was when my husband became the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. I think that within a month or two, I had scheduled a phone call with the ethics
Mm.
office, conflict of interest and ethics. I wanted to understand, is this the end of me, my roles? Can I have a business?
Right.
How does this work? And so I was very careful to going down all of those points and all of the multiple potential scenarios. And she was very good. It was so funny because she actually straight up just said, like, I'm gonna be honest with you, should you become the wife of the prime minister, no one's gonna care about you, to be honest.
Really?
And I was like,
Yeah.
what? Yeah,
Yeah.
she said that, and it was like
Right.
because of protocol. The wife of,
Wow.
of the prime minister, she's so below
Mm.
the protocol. Like the governor general and his wife come first. They're representative of the king here in Canada. And so when you actually go down the protocol line, it goes really low. So it was interesting when she said that, because it was like, reality check.
So,
You just know your name on the ballot, and
yeah.
that's okay. And I'm okay with that. But then it just left so much
Mm.
room for me to
Yeah.
decide what would I make out of this situation. So no, I don't intend on stopping anything, and I'm not required through the code to stop anything that I'm doing. I can have a business, I can grow that business. There are screens in place that you can have. Of course, I would never promote any business in a work setting where I'm with my
Mm-hmm.
husband and my name is being used. Of course, never. I keep everything very separate. So there are,
Mhm.
should it get to that point, there are a lot of screens that you can have in place. There's a lot of things that you can do to protect yourself, to protect your husband, to protect the integrity of the office of the prime minister.
Mm-hmm.
And I intend to follow all of those rules, which is why I did my due diligence and my homework.
I want
Mm-hmm.
to talk about getting to that point and dive into campaign 2025 and your role on the federal campaign this past March, April. We saw a lot of you, and people loved that you introduced Pierre at almost every, I think, was it every rally, every single one? Yeah. And took
Every
exactly,
single
and
one.
met with Canadians from coast to coast to coast. Uh, can you dive in with us on what that was like for you and some of the interesting conversations that you had around the country, and also election night and how that felt?
I would say it was one of the most meaningful times
Mm.
of my life,
Mm-hmm.
because of the connection that you create with people on the ground. And it makes me understand my husband at a
Wow.
different level. Of course, I've always been present. I've always supported my husband. I helped him in the 2015 general election. I was his co-campaign manager, the GOTV
Mhm.
manager, which is getting out the vote. So I've always been there, and so it was a no-brainer that I was going to be there. It's nothing new. It's new maybe to Canadians around the country, but it's always something that I have always done ever since I started dating him in 2012, which is why I was his co-campaign manager in 2015. So that was going to be a no-brainer, but this was at another level, because traveling is something that my husband has been doing ever since he became the leader. So he's always gone. Every week he's gone. He goes from coast to coast to
Mm-hmm.
coast. He's with the people on the ground. And one thing, whoever travels with Pierre and whoever's close to Pierre would notice one thing about him. He listens more than
Mm.
he talks. He is the
Mm-hmm.
one always asking the questions. So he's on the ground. He meets people, and he's just always asking them. And that's his way of doing polling. He wants to know, what are people feeling? What are people going through on the ground? And I believe that's why Pierre is very often proven right in being ahead of the curve when it comes to many issues in Canada. Inflation, when he started calling it out back in 2020, affordability, because he is on the ground. So I got to experience that with him. I got to see him in action, and I kind of became a mini Pierre. I started doing the same things. And you hear the stories. And they're very sad stories. There's a lot of struggle out there that we're not seeing in Ottawa. We're a little bit in a bubble here because the majority of our people are government workers. So they got to keep their job during COVID. They were protected working from home, but that is absolutely not the reality out there. And so there's a lot of struggle out there. And I was able to connect and to understand my husband and understand the mission and the purpose of what we do, why we do it. And I'm not saying that all other parties don't do it. Of course, you believe in that too. We all just have different solutions, I think, to the current problems to our country. And I got to understand why Pierre believes what he believes, even more so in a practical term. So introducing him gave me that exposure for people to come to me and to feel like they could connect with me as well, the way they connect with Pierre and share their stories with me. So that was incredibly meaningful. And at times it was difficult, to be honest. It felt like a lot of pressure. When you have grown up adults that are hugging you and crying, it feels like a lot of pressure when people feel like, I'm on the verge, I'm about to give up, I can't do it anymore. And then they're like, you gotta win. And it was a lot of pressure. But at the same time, that's the beauty of what we do. It's the meaning, it's the purpose.
And so on election night, obviously the Conservatives fell short. They did not form government. What was that like on the campaign, and what were some of your conversations with Pierre that night, if you want to share them?
So I think that you don't know the result until the result comes in, because you have to give your everything until the last minute. You can't give up, even if it's 24 hours before. You just can't. So you have to put all your hopes and everything. And I think it's fair to say that the movement on the ground and everything on the ground felt so strong. I now understand why. I understand that it was the same thing for the Liberals, because it became a two-horse race. And so I think both sides were feeling so good because the numbers that we were seeing at the doors were all way above 40% for both parties, which on any given election, anything above 45%, you're like, we're winning, right? But I don't know why there was an element of me the night before at our last rally that wanted to visualize all of the possibilities. And I think it goes back to the readings that I do with Stoicism and everything. And one of the things they talk about in Stoicism is negative visualization, so that you prepare for any eventuality in life. And so it's something that I do. And so that moment hit me really hard, and it hit me during our last rally, which was in our riding. And so that negative visualization just hit me so hard, and I just couldn't contain myself. And I just let it all out. I let it all out that night. Pierre couldn't understand because it just happened right there with him on stage. He hugged me, he reassured me. But I felt like because I had let it all out that night, on election night, I felt so strong, no matter what the outcome was. And so I felt incredibly strong. And I remember we were in the room with two of our good friends. And as the elections were coming in, there was a moment where it was tight. It was like 151, 154. There was a little suspense for a few minutes. And then I'm just watching. Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? And then eventually became clear that it wasn't going to happen. So now the question was, is it going to be minority? Is it going to be majority? And then the most important question is, what's happening with Pierre's writing?
Right.
That one, we felt it coming. That one, Yeah, well, I did. Because of the changes since COVID. I
Mm.
remember that the writing was changing. A lot of people that used to live close to downtown, so they could be close to work, they ended up selling their houses, moving to the writing for bigger houses. The lots are bigger. You can get like half an acre
Mm.
for the same amount of money, or actually for less money. So actually, I know personally people, a good friend of mine, who sold her house. It became crazy because she had bought it for like 800,000. Now it's worth
Wow.
1.7 million. Sold it for like
Mm.
1.7 million to then buy a house in my area of Greeley for 1.2 million. So then she was
Mm.
almost like mortgage free at this point. So it was a no brainer. But there was a lot of people that did moves like that, and that rely a lot on government jobs. And there was this rumor that Pierre was going to cut jobs, which of course we know it was not what he was going to do. It was going to be
Mm.
attrition. No one's going to get fired. So I kind of felt it. We knew that we didn't have much time left in that writing. It was becoming much more dependent on
Mm.
government. And as the conservatives, we are the party of small government. So we just didn't think it was going to happen this quick.
Mm.
But to go back to the point, we're sitting in a hotel room, we see the results coming. The last question is, what's happening
Mm.
with Pierre's writing? Now we know it's a liberal minority. What do we do? So we're waiting, we're holding. We just look at each other, and the result was good. You have 8.1 million Canadians that voted for my husband. 8.1 million. 8.4, approximately 8.5 for the Liberals. The result was so close that, to me, we had to give it another shot. That's what I felt right
Mm.
away in my heart. And so I remember just looking at Pierre and just saying, we gotta go. Like, first of all, no matter what happens to writing, we have to do this again.
Wow.
So
That
we
night,
kind of,
that night you felt that already.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we kind of looked at each other, and our friends were there. They agreed with us. And we're like, let's just do it. Let's go out there. Everybody's leaving the room right now. Let's go give the speech. We have to stay on. We have to fight on. And that's what we did. And I felt strong that night. I
Mm.
was smiling. I just felt like, okay, well, this is just,
Mm.
another obstacle in the journey. Like, the obstacle is the way. It's another obstacle in the journey, but it's just going to take a little bit longer. That's how I felt, and that's how I still feel today.
I want to talk about the word resilience because you had some extremely high political highs over the last year and some lows, and how, in such a short period of time, you move through that. And the word that comes to mind is resilience. How do you move? And I think you're doing it on a big national scale, but everyone who's listening is doing it on all different scales. So talk to us a little bit about that decision in that moment when you're in the room and you're like, fight on we
Mm.
go. Is that just who you are? Is that a part of you? Was that like a stroke of something that night? Or I'm just curious where that comes from, that ability to just say, okay, well, this is it today, but we're going to keep going
Yeah.
for it.
Well, I'm obsessed with personal growth. I think that anyone who follows me on Instagram is going to quickly get to know that about me. I'm obsessed with personal growth. I read all of these books, and I am obsessed in understanding what makes great people that succeed
Mm.
so great. And so I'm always researching, I'm always reading, and then it comes down to resilience, but grit as well. Because to me, resilience, it's being able to get back up, but grit is what makes you
Mm.
move forward. And so that night, what I struggle with in my life in general, it's not resilience, because I've gone through so much from my childhood to today, where I always get back up. Getting back up's never been an issue. It's moving forward. And that's great that I usually struggle with, but I've been reading and studying so much about it. And then one of the things that I've come to understand is learning to be comfortable in the
Mm.
uncomfortable. And I've come to read how do people that live in such a high and low life, like with the highs being so high, the lows being so low, how do they get through that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just it, is to not allow the roller coaster to ever take you too high or too low.
Hmm.
And so when we're 20 points ahead, we never acted like we were 20 points ahead. We never thought we were 20 points ahead. We were always, within high. And then when we were low, we never acted like we were low. We always act like, no, there's a path. So you never let your emotions take you too high or too low. And that's one of the things that I have seen with, or that I have read and seen actually in very successful people. Like, I was listening again to the Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett, actually behind the diary, and he was interviewing someone that he was going to invest $2.5 million in for this drink. And that's what the CEO of that company, Cadence, said. He said, I never let everything take me either too high or too low. And he learned that from his previous venture. And so because I'm obsessed with self-help and personal growth, it's something that I do every day. So I'm very mindful of my emotions when I let them take over. And I am an emotional person. I'm just very rational about my emotions. I'm very mindful of it. And so I don't let the roller coaster take me too high or too low. So I think that that's how you can get through this life. And I think that that's how people can get through life in general, because we're all going through very intense things, whether it's, illness in our family or personal illness ourselves. There's very difficult moments. And so, live the moment, understand the emotion, just try to rationalize to not let that roller coaster take you too high or
I
too
love
low.
that. I'm going to try and remember that. I want to ask you one more question about the campaign, and then I want to talk to you about your new magazine, which I think everyone's wondering about. We have done some research, and it has been said that you were the decision maker behind Pierre stopping wearing his glasses. Can you confirm or deny that? Confirm. So that was the Pierre rebrand was all you?
Yeah, but you can't say it's all a person. At the end of the day, like, the decision is always, it belongs to the person itself, to the individual. I was a strong influence.
I love that. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Now we have it on record. That's settled. Let's dive into your magazine. So you recently launched Pretty and Smart magazine. And can you tell us what this venture is and what you're hoping to accomplish? I know you had an awesome cover this quarter with the amazing Amanda and the other Amanda on your cover and in the magazine. Talk to us about that and what you're doing.
Thank you for asking and giving me the opportunity to talk about it's so Pretty and Smart. It started way back in 2015, so it's not quite something new. What's new is the new approach. What's new is the fact that I decided to relaunch it. So after the election, I finally had time again. And then I decided that, okay, well, now it's the time for me to relaunch with the new approach, the new editorial approach, which is a little bit more thoughtful. Um, the opinions and essays part is born, which I didn't have before. It was all about lifestyle. But, that was 10 years earlier. So I was 28. It was all about lifestyle. I am now 38. So I'm thinking, my brain is constantly thinking more. I have opinions, I have things that I want to share. And so that's why the new editorial approach. But it has always been a dream of mine to turn this not just into a blog, but an actual magazine, which to me means more in-depth substance. A blog is like 500 to 800 words. With a magazine, I felt that I had more capacity to do, like, okay, only 5, 6, 7 articles, but go more in depth. And Pretty and Smart Co. was actually born from my little sister when she was 4 years old. I have a younger sister, and she was 4. I was 25 at the time, and I used to call her Pretty all the time until one day it hit me that maybe it's not the best thing to constantly emphasize that, oh my God, you're great because you're pretty, right? So, and I just added the word and smart. So every time I promise to myself, if I say, oh my God, you're so pretty, I always say and smart. And then, at 4 years old, you don't know what pretty is. Like, pretty is everyone. Pretty is not about being tall, short, brown hair, blonde hair, whatever. So it was just building self-confidence for me. It was building self-confidence for my sister, but knowing that to love yourself regardless, feel pretty regardless, but then smart was the substance. I think that substance truly, really matters. So that's how the name was born. And then I just felt that every time that I would go into chapters, I would look at the magazine section, and I feel like there was a gap because I could go and get a magazine about fashion, I can get a magazine about gardening, I can get a magazine about interior design or politics, McLean's, whatever it is. The only one that I felt was kind of a little bit, maybe it was Vanity Fair because it had some interesting, more in depth pieces, but then they're obsessed with the celebrity side of it. So then I just felt like I wanted to do a magazine that would highlight women and their authentic self, that would highlight their journey to ambition as well. And I felt that when I started working on Parliament Hill, the message that was going around at the time, and even when I started university and we were studying, feminists like Simone de Beauvoir or whatever, it always felt like the women would have to choose between ambition and motherhood or relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just felt like, well, why can't we just have it all? Or you would have women that would basically try and push the idea that in order to succeed, you needed to take on male traits, like be a little bit more aggressive or whatever that may be. And so I just felt like, well, why can't I just succeed by being authentically me? Why do I have to be that aggressive person? Why can't I be the thoughtful, outspoken person instead? So I just felt like there was a lack of that. And I feel like it exists. And if we just showcase it more, then and bring it to the surface, then I think other women are going to realize that it exists and that it's possible. And so that's what we did with the magazine. We showcase stories of women, either mothers. Not all are balancing motherhood. One of them, she's not a mom, but she has a business. I think it's up to women nowadays to choose whatever they want in their lives. But I think it's important to also showcase that you can be a mom too, and you can be a business owner too, and you can have also a great marriage. And so I think there was that lack, that gap, and I think that's what I'm trying to do with Pretty and Smart Co. And of course, I wanted to address the big elephant in the room because of my last name. So, okay, when I was doing a magazine, what can we expect? This is going to be about politics. What's going on? And so I have been thinking for a while, I've been wanting to actually write this story, but it was going to be for my blog originally. I wanted to write the story about the two Amandas because, of course, I watch TV, and I just noticed, here we have two women that are building businesses, that are working on empowering other women in their own way, that are very politically active, that are kind of similar, but they're just in different, party lines, like different political alliance. But other than that, they have so much in common. And so it was interesting because as we did the interview, we discovered there was more and more and more and more in common. And that was so interesting because as we're doing the interview, we find out that they both named the daughter Vivienne, and Amanda Galvin and Amanda Alvaro. And then we meet up for the photo shoot. And that's when it got super interesting because, first of all, the photographer that I was able to find to collaborate with us, her name was Amanda too. So that was very interesting. I'm in a room with 3 Amandas, not 2. And so it was very challenging. Every time we say Amanda, it's like, which one? And then I'm speaking with, Amanda Alvaro and I were talking to each other, trying to get to know each other more. And then all of a sudden she says, yeah, because my husband, Mark. And then my ears go like, what? What did you just say? And then she's like, my husband, Mark. I was like, no. That's not your husband's name. And she's like, yes.
She doesn't know her husband's name.
Amanda Galbraith. Like, that's her husband's name. And then I was like, no
so weird.
way. It was so weird. And then all of a sudden, Amanda was like, wait, when's your birthday? And they're like, June. Both born in few days apart, Gemini, both husbands named Mark. It was just all the similarities, both on businesses and comms and PR. Like it was just insane. And the one difference is one's voting conservative, one's voting liberal. But if you go to a coffee shop, if you go to a networking event and you meet another woman, you ask her questions about, I don't know, her children, or what do you do for a living, or what are you reading lately? And those are the things that you live with. You never go and ask, who did you vote for? Like that's not a connection you make with another human.
I have to say that when Anna first reached out to me, I almost fell off my chair because I was like, why is she reaching out to me? And I think I can say this on behalf of both of us. I think we both wondered what the reception would be for her to feature both a liberal and a conservative, or for me to do something with Ana. And I think that we were both pleasantly surprised that the overwhelming majority of people who read the article, who engaged with the piece, really appreciated. And I think a lot of that is because of how much division we're seeing, especially south of the border, looking to build those bridges. And it's one thing that, Ana and I may have a different perspective on politics, but what we do agree on is that we have to build those bridges. And I can't say enough good things about the experience and about getting to know her. And a reminder, and obviously this is the reason why we have Beyond a Ballot, to bring voices from all different political parties, to bring women into the fold, to have these kinds of conversations. But I had to live it too, right? I can't just say I'm going to do it. I had to live it. And it turned out to be even better than I had hoped. So thank you for doing that and for bringing us together. And you can get yours, dear listeners. You can
tell everybody.
Tell everyone, if they want to read Pretty and Smart, how do they do it?
They can go to the website prettyandsmartco.com, and you can have the digital copy there for $5.99. And there is a printed copy coming once I decide which one I'm going to go with. It'll be available soon. I'm working on it.
Amazing. So I have a question that we're nearing the end here, but on this idea of the divisions that are happening in the US, especially these divides that make many women tune out because they don't want to be a part of it. I know that that's not your perspective. Tell us a little bit about, for the women who are listening, who want to be involved in politics, but are really turned off by the toxicity, who are turned off by the language that politicians use. How can women get involved and feel like it's not so extreme or so divided? Do you have some advice for our listeners?
I think it starts with listening. I think it starts with listening properly. I think that all sides, we want to judge. We have an idea of what the other side is trying to say or represents, or wants to start listening properly and engaging in conversations the way we do with the other side, then you start understanding the other side. And even though you don't agree, at least you can have some level of empathy and compassion and understanding where they're coming from. Because sometimes people have certain beliefs in life, and it comes back to how they grew up in their childhood. Maybe they learned that they had to be a certain way in order to get ahead in life, and then they felt that such political party at the time was the one that was more present for them. And so if at least we start engaging with conversations with each other and properly listening, I think we can't forget at the end of the day, and I think it does a disservice to any partisan person, political party, when they go and assume, or I just don't like this person. Right. Well, 8.1 million people voted for Pierre. 8.4 million people, voted for Carney. So obviously, when you walk out there, it's almost 1 out of 2 people that are eligible to vote that voted for the other side. Don't you want to get to understand why that person actually likes that other person? Don't you actually want to listen? Why? I don't think that putting people like as, oh, he's totally dislikable. Obviously, he's not, because there's people that like him or her. So I think that engaging in conversations is the most single important thing for our democracy and for everybody to do. And actually listening to the words, even if you're not going to agree, you can show some level of empathy and compassion in trying to understand why that person believes what he or she believes. I think that's the most important part.
Absolutely. Listening. That's the message that we're taking away from you today. And I couldn't agree more about listening to the others.
Engaging, if you shut down the other side, how are you going to know and understand?
That's what we try and do here every week. And it has been such a pleasure to listen to you, Ana Pollievre. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'd love to have you back again to tell us more as your business grows, as more happens in Canadian politics. We'd love to have you later on. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back.
Thank you for listening. New episodes air every Friday.
Subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram and find us at beyondaballot.com.